الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. رب زدني علما. اللهم رب زدني علما. اللهم رب زدني علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل صلاة كاملة وسلم سلاما تاما على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به الكرب وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتيم، ويستسقى الغمام بوجهه الكريم وعلى آله وأزواجه وذريته وصحبه في كل لمحة ونفس بعدد كل معلوم لك. اللهم في هذا اليوم المبارك فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم. اللهم فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم، والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين، والطف بنا وبهم يا رب العالمين، والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله تعالى على رسول خير خلقه محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. Okay, so we are up to the final point. I think it's talking about the characteristics of the mystic experience. The fifth, the mystic's intimate association with the eternal. I don't know what it means. Probably he means what Sufi are called mushahidatul haqq. Gives him a sense of the unreality of serial time. So the mystic's intimate association with the eternal, which gives him a sense of the unreality of serial time, does not mean a complete break with serial time. Oh, Ya Allah. Now, serial time means, the time we experience, in which there is a past and present and future. Does the mystic does the mystic experience give him the sense of the unreality of time, or not? Or rather, it gives him, if it shows him the serial time in light of the reality, the actual reality. So that's two different things. So now we don't have that experience, but what we are talking about is in light of what, for example, Sufia have described their experience, for example, in Maktubat or in other, there's a vast literature in Arabic, in Persian, in Urdu, and in other languages, I'm sure, as well. And some of that is translated into English as well. So he's saying the mystic's intimate association with the eternal. I don't know what he means association, but I'm taking him to mean mushahida, observation, mushahida. Obviously, we use the word observation, but what's the nature of that observation and what's like, we have no idea of al-haq. So he gives him, according to Iqbal, the sense of the unreality of the serial time or our time, in our world as a whole. Why should we just limit it to the serial time? But what I'm saying is why this should be the case. I mean, this can be the case. That would be that would be attributed to the low quality of the experience or low level of the experience. But really, in real, if there is a mystic or Sufi experience, mushahida of the haq, al-haq, the only real, the haq, the real, the real should show you the serial time and anything else related to our world in its true light, in its true reality, as part of this vast universe rather than. So so that's my point here. Okay, so let's go back to the text. So the mystic's intimate association with the eternal, which gives him a sense of the unreality of serial time, does not mean a complete break with serial time. The mystic state, in respects of its uniqueness, remain in some way related to common experience, like our public or day-to-day experience. It should, because otherwise how that's the thing. The experience which any person who has cleansed his heart and has longed for Haqq subhanahu wa ta'ala through faraid and nawafil, and then that experience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes his hand through which he, or his eyes through which he sees, in that state, in that hall. Obviously, it's connected to his earthly life because that's where he did faraid. But as and nawafil, but as he or she progresses in this journey, like wama ramaita is ramaita walakin Allah rama, our actions don't just remain merely our actions, even though even at that earthly level we can't act without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's basic hidayah or basic Mashiach, his assistant. But that totally different types of assistance becomes our companion when we go upward in that journey. And at some point, Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala's specific help overtakes us. That's what means he becomes our hand or eyes through which we see. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, fear the insight of a mu'min because he sees or she sees from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's eyes. So in that state, everything is seen through divine intervention through divine eye, so to speak. So everything is seen in a different light. Okay, I just lost the initial point. So let's go back to the text. The mystic state in respect of its uniqueness remains in some way related to our common experience, because it starts with our body, our soul, our senses, our reason, and our effort, day to day. But as we progress in that, at some point it is overtaken by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's direct intervention. And then our common experience no longer remain common, in the sense that that common experience is seen through divine experience, so to speak. So that's how we understand what Iqbal is saying there. Here, but obviously it's talking this, attributing this to a mystic, but we don't know what mystic is. This is clear from the fact that mystic state, that is hal, fades away, in the sense that it is overtaken by direct divine intervention at some level, though it leaves a deep sense of authority after it has passed away. The mystate soon fades away, though it leaves a deep sense of, because a person himself or herself is transformed, and when goes back to his original, he's no longer the same person in that sense. So in that sense, nothing fades away, even though the specific experience has fade away. And depending on the levels, some people have lived with that experience at certain level all the time. Both the mystic and the prophet. So that's one of the basic major mistakes of Allama Iqbal. Just keep mixing mystic and the prophet. They're totally qualitatively different realms. So by both the mystic return to the normal level, but with the difference that the return of the prophet, as I will show later, may be fraught with infinite meaning. Same for the return of every moment, with the proviso that Rasulullah ﷺ and the messengers' experience is qualitatively different from any other human being's experience, in ways which is defined and described and clearly delimited in our texts and in Nusus al-Sharia. Now, for the purpose of knowledge, then, the region of mystic experience is as real or any other region of human experience. It's not as real, it's more real in the sense that we see our transient reality in light of the permanent reality. So we see transient reality in its proper context. So in a sense, that's the first time we see our reality as it is, and cannot be ignored merely because it cannot be traced back to sense perception. In fact, our senses get a new and proper context. Nor is it possible to undo the spiritual value of the mystic state by specifying the organic conditions which appear to determine it. Like, probably he means a specific outward signs on our body, when people have those experiences. Even if the postulate of modern psychology as the interrelation of body and mind just seem to be true, what postulate is that? It is illogical to discuss the value of mystic state as a revelation of truth. Sure. But since when psychology is the arbitrator in that. Psychologically speaking, all states, whether their content is religious, are organically determined. That organically, what I mean is bodily determined. Because psychology, the basic proviso is that we are animals. The reference of the editor is to William James. 41, William James, Varieties of Religious Experience, a book which is quoted extensively in these lectures. I mean, at least a couple. In the first lecture, in this fifth point, and in the second as well, if I remember correctly. Okay. The scientific form of mind is as much organically determined as religious. Not as much. I mean, scientific form of mind is organically determined, unless a religious form of mind is sure organically determined, but if we have a connection with the transcendent, then there is some sort of transcendence there. And if the revelation is from the beyond, that is beyond organic in that sense. So we see science and body and religion and everything in light of the haqq, the truth, for the first time, when we see our worldly knowledges and endeavors in the light of revelation. Our judgment as to the creations of genius is not at all determined or even remotely affected by what our psychologists may say regarding its organic condition. Well, he's comparing a genius with the prophet and the mystic to a certain extent, just to make a point that, if a genius can transcend organic limitation to a certain extent, as he does according to at least some notions of genius, for example, Kant's in the third critique, then how can we deny that the experience which is truly related to true transcendence, how can that not transcend our body and our this worldly limitation? So our judgment as to the creations of genius is not at all determined or even remotely affected by what I said, maybe organic at certain kind of temperament, maybe a certain kind of temperament may be necessary condition for certain kind of receptivity. It's talking about the receiving knowledge from the beyond, but the antecedent condition cannot be regarded as the whole truth. That's true. And in the case of prophet, it's totally different, because the temperament is totally reformed, as was in the case of the prophet, that the Jibreel came 2 times, at least twice, and he performed sort of a heart surgery on the prophet and took out all the potential for any errors and shaitani intervention from the prophet, and to wash it with water of Zamzam, so it was cleansed of all earthly shortcomings and was made capable of receiving the light from the beyond. about the so a certain kind of temperament may be necessary condition for certain kind of receptive, but the antecedent condition cannot be regarded as the whole truth about the character of what is received. The truth is that the organic causation of our mental state has nothing to do with the criteria by which we judge them to be superior or inferior in point of value. Yeah, so I mean, like the genealogy of or the causal chain, a causal chain of certain judgment is a separate issue, a distinct issue from evaluating the truth or falsehood of that judgment. In a similar way, antecedent conditions cannot determine the truth of what is received from beyond. Okay, so we'll stop here and we'll continue from here, inshallah.